The downpour, the rain fell in merciless sheets, turning the gleaming sidewalks of downtown into mirror-like pools reflecting the city lights. Melody Jenkins huddled beneath the minimal shelter of the Westbrook Concert Hall's decorative overhang, her thin jacket offering little protection against the April downpour. Her fingers, once insured for millions, now red and stiff with cold, clutched a small paper cup containing $3.47 in loose change. Tonight was the gallery opening of the hall after renovations. The irony wasn't lost on Melody. 5 years ago she'd been a headliner here, her name emblazoned on posters and programs. Now, at 34, she was invisible to the well-dressed patrons hurrying past, their focus on staying dry rather than acknowledging the bedraggled woman in their periphery. The accident had taken everything: her career, her apartment, her sense of self. The 19 surgeries that followed had drained her savings and still left her with a right hand that could barely hold a cup, let alone dance across piano keys with the virtuosity that had once made her famous. 3 fingers permanently bent at unnatural angles served as a constant reminder of what she'd lost. Handel's Water Music seems appropriate, doesn't it? The voice startled her. Standing nearby, partially sheltered by an expensive umbrella, was a man in his 60s. His tailored suit probably cost more than she'd made in the past year of odd jobs and street performances. Despite his obvious wealth, there was something fragile about him, a pallor beneath his tanned skin, a slight tremor in the hand holding the umbrella. "I wasn't playing anything," Melody said, voice hoarse from disuse. "But you were, with your fingers." He gestured to her left hand, which had indeed been tapping rhythmically against her thigh, an old habit she couldn't break. Allegro in F major, unmistakable. She stared at him, suddenly. "Do I know you?" "Theodore Blackwood." He offered no handshake, just a slight incline of his head. "And you're Melody Jenkins. I attended your performance of Rachmaninoff's Third at Carnegie Hall, 2019. Transcendent?" Melody felt exposed, as though he'd stripped away the layers of grime and desperation to reveal the person she'd once been. That was another lifetime indeed. Theodore checked an expensive watch. "I have a proposition for you, Miss Jenkins. I'm not interested in charity." "Good. I'm not offering any." His eyes, a penetrating gray, assessed her with clinical detachment. "I'm offering an exchange. Your experiences for my money." A limousine glided to the curb behind him, its headlights cutting through the rain. The driver emerged with another umbrella. "I'm dying, Miss Jenkins. Brain tumor, inoperable. I have approximately 4 months." He delivered this information with the same tone one might use to discuss the weather. "There are things I wish to experience before I go, but my condition prevents it. I need a proxy." "And you chose a homeless woman outside a concert hall." Theodore smiled thinly. "I chose a musician with extraordinary sensitivity and nothing left to lose. Will you hear me out over dinner? My car is warm, and I know a place that makes exceptional French onion soup." Melody hesitated. Every instinct screamed caution, yet the rain was seeping through her clothes, and the night promised only more cold and hunger. "Why should I trust you?" "You shouldn't, not yet." Theodore opened the car door. "But trust this. I'm offering you purpose, not just survival. And in my experience, purpose is far rarer than money." As thunder rumbled overhead, Melody made her decision. Whatever this strange man was proposing couldn't be worse than slowly drowning in rain and regret. She stood, her meager possessions fitting into one small backpack, and stepped toward the waiting car. "If this is some kind of joke, I assure you, Ms. Jenkins," Theodore said as she passed him, "death has rather eliminated my sense of humor." The car door closed behind them, sealing out the rain and sealing in the first quiet moment Melody had experienced in months. As the limousine pulled away from the curb, she couldn't shake the feeling that she had just stepped into the opening. Movement of something significant, something that might either save her or destroy what little she had left. The proposition: the restaurant wasn't what Melody expected. Instead of the upscale establishment she'd anticipated, Theodore directed his driver to a small, unassuming bistro tucked between a bookshop and a vintage record store. The place was nearly empty, save for an elderly couple in one corner and a server who greeted Theodore by name. "Mr. Blackwood, your usual table is ready." They were seated in a secluded alcove adorned with framed sheet music and photographs of composers. A small candle flickered between them, casting Theodore's face in sharp contrasts that emphasized the hollows beneath his cheekbones. Melody shifted uncomfortably, acutely aware of her disheveled appearance. Her rain-soaked clothes had begun to dry in the warm restaurant, leaving her hair a frizzy mess and her second-hand sweater wrinkled. "Order whatever you'd like," Theodore said, not opening his menu. "The coq au vin is exceptional." When the waiter returned, Melody ordered the promised French onion soup and the coq au vin, trying not to appear too eager despite her gnawing hunger. Theodore requested only a pot of tea. "You're not eating?" she asked after the waiter departed. "The medications affect my appetite." He placed a slim leather portfolio on the table. "But please, don't let that stop you. Now, about my proposition." He opened the portfolio, revealing a typed document with bullet points. "I have compiled what some might call a bucket list, though I find the term rather trite. It's a catalog of experiences I wished to have before my diagnosis but never prioritized. Business always came first." Melody glanced at the list, noting items like watch the northern lights, float in the Dead Sea, and learn to play a musical instrument. I don't understand. You're wealthy enough to do these things. Some yes, but my condition is deteriorating rapidly. Seizures, fatigue, occasional neural disruptions that affect my senses. Theodore tapped the paper with a manicured fingernail. I can no longer travel extensively. Certain physical activities are impossible, and some experiences, he paused, require functioning senses that I'm beginning to lose. The soup arrived, steaming and fragrant. Melody restrained herself from devouring it immediately, instead taking deliberate, measured spoonfuls while Theodore continued. I propose this. You will undertake these experiences on my behalf. Document them thoroughly. Describe in detail what you see, hear, feel, taste. Become my sensory surrogate. He slid another document across the table. In return, I will provide accommodation, all necessary expenses, and a substantial payment upon completion. Melody nearly choked on her soup when she saw the figure. This is ... excessive. Is it? I'm asking you to live parts of my life for me, to be my proxy in experiences I'll never have. What price would you put on that? Theodore's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in his eyes. Besides, it's barely a rounding error in my accounts, and I have no heirs. As her main course arrived rich, fragrant, and more food than she'd seen in weeks, Melody studied the list more carefully. Some of these seem rather ordinary. Walk barefoot in the rain, feed birds in the park. When was the last time you did either? The question caught her off guard. She couldn't remember. Ordinary pleasures become extraordinary when lost, Theodore said quietly. I built Blackwood Technologies from nothing, created innovations that changed how people communicate, made billions, and yet, I never took the time to stand in the rain without an umbrella, simply feeling the water on my face. Melody set down her fork. So this is about regret. This is about living. Miss Jenkins, something neither of us has done properly for some time. Theodore sipped his tea. You have lost your music. I am losing my life. We're both just shells now, aren't we? Going through motions without purpose. His bluntness was startling. Melody found herself unable to formulate a denial that wouldn't sound hollow. There are 30 experiences on that list, he continued. Approximately one every 4 days for the next 4 months. Some are simple, others more complex. All are meaningful to me for reasons I may or may not share. And if you die before I finish, then the remainder of the payment transfers automatically upon my death, provided you complete as many as possible before then. Theodore's hand trembled slightly as he set down his teacup. The legal documents are straightforward. My lawyer can meet us tomorrow. Melody ate in silence for several minutes, considering. The food was delicious, but her mind was elsewhere, scanning the list, weighing possibilities, searching for hidden dangers. Why me? Surely there are professional, I don't know, experienced consultants, people who aren't one step away from a shelter. Theodore's thin smile returned. I chose you precisely because of where you are in life, Miss Jenkins. You understand loss intimately. You know what it means to have everything and then nothing. He leaned forward. And you were a performer. Before, audiences paid to watch your hands create beauty. Now I'm paying for you to be my hands, my eyes, my senses in the world. The restaurant had emptied completely. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving the streets glistening under street. You'll have your own suite in my home, complete privacy. You can leave at any time if you find the arrangement unsuitable. Theodore closed the portfolio. All I ask is that you approach each experience with genuine openness. These aren't items to check off. They're moments to be lived fully. Melody stared at her empty plate, then at her damaged right hand. For 5 years, she'd been existing, not living. The thought of purpose, even one as strange as this, pulled at something deep within her. When do we start? She finally asked. Theodore nodded, satisfied. Tomorrow morning. Item 1. Watch the sunrise from a mountain peak. As they left the restaurant, Melody realized she hadn't felt this curious about tomorrow in years. Whatever Theodore Blackwood's true motives, he had already given her something unexpected. Anticipation *. The first movement. Dawn painted the Arizona sky in impossible colors, deep purples, giving way to fiery oranges and pinks that reflected off the distant Colorado River. Melody stood atop Wallapai Peak, her breath forming small clouds in the chilly morning air. 3 days into her arrangement with Theodore, and already the world seemed different, more vivid somehow. Describe it, came Theodore's voice through her earpiece. He was back at his modernist desert home 30 miles away, connected through technology of his own design, a camera embedded in special glasses Melody wore, allowing him to see through her eyes. The sun is just cresting the horizon, she said, turning slowly to give him a panoramic view. The light is hitting the canyon walls, turning them from shadow to flame, like watching a massive orchestra of color slowly building to crescendo. A musician's description. She couldn't help it. Everything translated to musical terms in her mind. There's a wind coming up from the valley, cool but not cold. It smells like sage and dust and something sweet I can't identify. She closed her eyes briefly. It makes my skin feel alive. The birds, Theodore prompted. Can you hear them? Melody listened. Yes, not singing exactly. More like announcing, declaring the day. She heard Theodore's soft exhale through the earpiece. Satisfaction. This was their third experience together. Yesterday had been simpler, sitting in a bustling cafe, people watching for hours as she narrated the small human dramas unfolding around them. The day before, they'd visited an aquarium where Melody had placed her good hand against the glass of the jellyfish tank, describing the otherworldly pulse and glow of creatures that seemed made of light itself. Tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow was skydiving. The thought sent a flutter of anxiety through her stomach. Heights had always terrified her, even before her life collapsed. But Theodore's instructions were clear. Experience everything fully, honestly, without reservation. What are you thinking about? Theodore asked, detecting her silence. Tomorrow, she admitted. I'm afraid good fear means you're present. Fully aware, as the sun climbed higher, Melody found a rock to sit on. Her hiking guide, a taciturn Walape man named James, had retreated to give her privacy, though she occasionally caught him watching her talk to herself with mild curiosity. Can I ask you something, Theodore? Of course. Why these specific experiences? Some seem so ordinary. There was a pause before he answered. My father was a physicist. He believed that observation changes reality, that nothing truly exists until it's witnessed. Another pause. I've spent my life observing data, market trends, technological innovations, but rarely life itself. That evening, back at Theodore's sprawling desert home, Melody found a package outside her suite door. Inside was a journal bound in soft leather, with a note in Theodore's precise handwriting: for your private reflections. Some experiences change us in ways we don't immediately understand. She placed it on her nightstand, next to the pill bottle containing her pain medication. The chronic pain in her hand had lessened these past days, not gone, but somehow less consuming. She hadn't noticed until now. The crescendo. I can't believe you talked me into this. Melody shouted over the roar of the small aircraft's engine. 6 weeks into their arrangement, and Theodore had become more demanding, pushing experiences that challenged her more deeply today. Learning to sail in San Francisco Bay. Despite growing up in California, Melody had never been on a sailboat. The instructor, a weathered woman named Denise, with sun-bleached hair and sailor's squint, shouted instructions as Melody fumbled with ropes and winches. Stop thinking like a pianist, came Theodore's voice in her ear. Your hands know how to learn. Trust them. Oddly enough, he was right. Once she stopped overthinking, her body found the rhythm of the boat, anticipating the shifts in wind and weight. By afternoon, she was handling the small craft with surprising confidence, even managing to control the mainsheet with her damaged right hand. Tell me about the water, Theodore prompted, his voice weaker than it had been even a week ago. Melody looked at the bay surrounding them, sparkling under the summer sun. It's alive, constantly changing. The surface looks like hammered silver where the light hits it, then deep blue in the shadows of the Golden Gate. She inhaled deeply. The air tastes like salt and diesel and freedom. That last word surprised her, but it was true. She felt free on the water in a way she hadn't in years. Their experiences had grown more varied and intense as Theodore's condition deteriorated. They'd attended an underground jazz concert where Melody had danced until dawn. They'd spent a day volunteering at a wildlife rehabilitation center where she'd helped feed baby birds with an eyedropper. They'd even gone to a pottery class where Melody created a lopsided bowl with her imperfect hands. Each experience was documented meticulously, not just for Theodore, but in her leather journal, which was now half filled with observations, sketches, and emotions she'd thought long buried. What surprised Melody most was how Theodore seemed to come alive through her experiences. During their evening debriefings, his sunken eyes would light up as she elaborated on details, his voice growing stronger as he questioned her about specific sensations. But physically, he was fading. The tremors were worse. Sometimes he lost his train of thought twice. He'd had seizures while connected to a feed, leaving her alone and worried until his medical staff confirmed he was stable. Time was running out, and they both knew it. That night, after returning from San Francisco, Melody found Theodore in his study, surrounded by medical equipment that hadn't been there the week before. An oxygen tank stood nearby, though he wasn't using it yet. 18 experiences completed, he said without preamble. 12 remaining. Melody sat across from him, noticing how the desk between them seemed wider somehow, the distance greater. We might not finish them all. No, we won't, he said. It mattered. My doctors give me 3 weeks, perhaps 4. The words hung in the air between them. Despite knowing this was coming, Melody felt unexpectedly gutted. We'll prioritize, Theodore continued, sliding a revised list across the desk. These 5 are essential. Melody scanned the list. The final item made her blood run cold. Play a piano concerto before an audience. I can't, she whispered, her right hand curling protectively against her chest. You know I can't. Theodore's gaze was unwavering. I've seen you. When you think no one is watching, your left hand still plays on tabletops, railings, your knee. The music never left you, Melody. But my right hand has limitations, not impossibilities. He tapped the paper. I've arranged everything. a modified Ravel piece for left hand with minimal right hand support. 3 weeks of intensive training with Dr. Haruto Tanaka. Melody recognized the name, one of the world's foremost experts in rehabilitative techniques for injured musicians. How did you... Money opens doors, but talent walks through them. Theodore's face softened. This isn't just for me, Melody. It never was. The finale of the concert hall was smaller than those Melody had once commanded, but it was elegant, a renovated church with outstanding acoustics and a Steinway grand that gleamed under the stage lights. In the front row sat Theodore, oxygen tube, now a permanent fixture, his assistant ready with medication should he need it. 3 months and 20 spent experiences after their strange partnership began. They had arrived at the final item on Theodore's list. Behind the stage curtain, Melody flexed her hands, both of them. The past 3 weeks with Dr. Tanaka had been grueling, painful, and revelatory. Her right hand would never be what it was, but it could contribute more than she'd believed possible. The specially arranged piece would showcase her left hand's strength while incorporating what her right could manage. 5 minutes. Ms. Jenkins, the stage manager, murmured. Melody touched her earpiece. Are you ready? Theodore's voice came through, weaker than ever but clear. I've been ready for this my entire life. She hadn't understood what he meant when he first said it, but now she did. This wasn't about checking off a final experience. This was about completion for both of them. The audience was small, just 30 people, all personally invited by Theodore. No critics, no pressure, just music. As Melody walked onto the stage, the polite applause washed over her. She hadn't faced an audience in 5 years. Her heart hammered against her ribs, but it wasn't the paralyzing fear she'd expected. Instead, it felt like anticipation, like standing on the edge of a cliff before her first skydive. She sat at the piano, adjusting the bench with the unconscious habits of a lifetime. Her damaged right hand found its position, slightly modified from her glory days. She took a breath, centered herself, and began. The music flowed from her left hand with confidence, building the foundation of Ravel's concerto for the left hand. Her right hand entered sparingly, adding color and emphasis rather than carrying melody. Dr. Tanaka's arrangements were brilliant, showcasing what she could do rather than highlighting what she couldn't. Through her earpiece, she heard Theodore's breathing change, becoming deeper, more measured, as if the music itself was sustaining him as she played. Melody realized something profound. She wasn't performing for Theodore anymore. She was performing with him. Every note they had experienced together over these months, the sunrise over the canyon, the jellyfish pulsing like living light, the salt spray of the bay against her face, all of it was here in the music. Their shared journey had become a duet. When the final notes faded, there was a moment of perfect silence before the applause began. Melody looked to the front row, meeting Theodore's gaze. Tears streamed down his hollow cheeks. But he was smiling, truly smiling, for the first time since she'd known him. He nodded once, a gesture of completion. 2 days later, Theodore Blackwood died peacefully in his sleep. According to his wishes, there was no funeral, no public mourning. His substantial estate was divided among various foundations, with a generous trust established for continuing Dr. Tanaka's work with injured musicians. Melody received exactly what had been promised: financial security and the deed to a small cottage on the California coast with a studio, specifically designed for a pianist with limited right hand mobility. Among Theodore's personal effects was a letter, addressed to her, and inside, a single sheet of music, an original composition titled The Symphony of Second Chances, with a handwritten note at the bottom. Some experiences require a witness to become real. Thank you for witnessing mine, and for allowing me to witness your return. The true bucket list was never about what we did, but who we became while doing it. Your revival was my final adventure. 1 month later, Melody sat at her new piano as rain drummed against the windows of her coastal home. Outside, the Pacific stretched endlessly, changing colors with the storm, just as she had once described to Theodore. Her fingers, both hands, moved across the keys, playing his composition for the first time. It wasn't perfect, but it was alive, and so was she.